he made an amazing effort to try to learn how how to engage in sadhana bhakti. At first, he went to a couple of different temples, and the devotees in the temples recognized him, and they unceremoniously told him not to come back. And then he sent Tusta. He sent his disciple Tusta Kushana, who was then just called Tusta. He sent him knowing that he probably wouldn't be recognized because he wasn't the one whose picture was all over everything, you know. ISKCON was very, very aware of Srila Prabhupada back in those days. And Bhaktivedanta Swami never said anything, but they were like convinced that he was one of these, you know, charlatans. But really all he wanted to do was be able to teach his disciples. It's like, I don't want to just bring my spiritual master a bunch of uninitiated, uncouth people who don't really know anything. I want them to come to Bhaktivedanta Swami as devotees. And so when the time came that he surrendered all of his hundreds of devotees and they went to various temples in various places and so forth, his instruction was to learn the practice of sadhana bhakti, cooking for the deities, doing arti, guru puj, sankirtan, all these different things, that all the practice, excuse me, the practice of sadhana bhakti. And the reason I bring this up is because I think one of the reasons why Acharya Das asked me to come here and give classes is so that we could perfect our sadhana bhakti. For example, when I first came here, we were singing by your ignorance is destroyed. And of course, this is a misunderstanding. And thank goodness you guys were all gracious enough to say, oh, okay, that makes sense, and changed it to by you ignorance is destroyed. Evidently it was misprinted in some kind of a publication. Silly, small, duty little things like that, but the kind of thing that some guy from India or some guy from ISKCON who's curious and wants to maybe surrender because he doesn't like what's going on at ISKCON or something, he comes here and he sees, oh my God, they're singing by your ignorance. How can you say that? How can you say the spiritual master is ignorant? And then they go on making offense, and nothing good comes of it. So for this reason, in this mood, I would simply like to point out that, number one, I am not an expert in the worship of the deities. But number two, I would simply like to point out that I have seen, well, one time, for example, not here, but at another temple, another worship, they were standing on the other side. And I've been to many, not just ISKCON temples, but many Hindu temples and places in Malaysia and Thailand and different places. And they never do it on that side, on Lord Chaitanya's left. They always do it on Lord Chaitanya's right. And so it occurs to me as, and I said something to them, and they were very positive about it, and they changed it. You know, none of these things are going to send you to hell. If you offer Lord Krishna with love and devotion from the left side, from the right side, from the center, from it's it's not going to, you know, make a huge difference in ultimately in your devotion. But as disciples, we want to do it right, right? We want to do it right. We want to do it the way that it has come down from disciple to disciple. And so in this mood, I'd like to point out that from time to time, I see, now I know why the incense is not offered to Srila Prabhupada, because it bothers him, and that makes sense. So, but when we do the worship, when we do the arti, I often ask people, who taught you how to do arti? Can they give some initiated disciple's name? And I'm like, well, who am I to, you know, question that? But I pointed it out to Boying today, and he said, well, why don't you tell everybody about it? So I'm going to tell everybody about it. And that is that from time to time, I see people taking the fan and offering the fan to Krishna, to Lord Chaitanya, and then the chamara, the yak-tail fan. And from time to time, I see them take the chamara and offer it to Krishna, and then after that, take the fan and offer it. Now, again, this is only from my own experience that I share this with you. I have never, ever in my life seen the fan offered last. It is the chamara, it is the yak-tail fan that is offered last when you're doing artik. Now, again, I don't know if there's some hard and fast rule about this or not, but it is the only way I have ever seen it done in temples, both Indian temples and in ISKCON temples as well. So, those of you who are doing artik, those of you who are learning artik, I don't think you'll get in any trouble if you make the yak-tail fan your last offering. I don't think anyone will ever say that, you know, that's wrong. And so, and I'm not saying it's wrong either, I'm just saying this is the way I've learned it. And so, Haribol. Are there any questions about anything that you'd like me to speak on? I have some notes that I would share with you, but if there's a question or a comment of any kind, I'd be happy to help completely confuse you. No? No question? Not even my question girls back there in the corner? No? No questions. Okay. Well, in that case, then allow me to share with you, you know, a few weeks ago, I shared some of the prayers of the pure devotee, some prayers that Srila Prabhupada has shared with us over a period of time. And then I got a few prayers into it, and then we were finished, and I put it in my bag, and evidently I put it next to some tea or something, I don't know what, but anyway, these are prayers that Srila Prabhupada has given us. So I'd like to share some of them with you. The entire spiritual world and all of its beauty and love are open for one who opens his heart to Lord Nityananda. Please, dear Lord Nityananda, give me your protection. Please let me taste but one drop of love for Krishna, so that when I am chanting the names of Krishna, I'm actually feeling some love rather than being like a dry stone. Now, why would the pure devotee ever be in a situation where he feels like a dry stone? Why would he have to pray for this kind of love? In this case, even as in the case of the Gopinath prayers and many other prayers of the pure devotees of God, they are teaching us how to pray. I'm sure every single one of you in this room has been to a kirtan or been expected to chant at some point and they just didn't feel like it. Their heart was just not in it. I want a pizza. I want to go swimming. I don't want to be here and chant. And so when our hearts become, actually that happens to me almost every day, but when our hearts become so overwhelmed with worry, doubt, self-pity, offense, this is the big one, some offense that we've done, this is when we should take to this prayer, take shelter in this prayer. My dear Lord Nityananda, please give me but just one drop, just the tiniest drop of love for you, so that I can chant your names and not feel like a hypocrite, not feel like my heart is like stone. This is the pure devotee's prayer in the mood of the ordinary person. In 1991, Prabhupada said, when we follow the gopis' example, we will find ourselves falling very short. Then we fall at Krishna's feet, feeling lower than the straw in the street, and we pray, my dear Lord, please forgive me. Please accept me. Please forgive me for my offenses, as I forgive those who I think have committed some offense against me, or who are imperfect in my eyes. Pure devotee, when he looks at someone, no matter how imperfect or how disqualified they are, he sees perfection because he sees the Lord in their heart. And my daughter recently told me, she told me that the thing that you are doing for Srila Prabhupada that he asked you to do, you have no qualification for doing that. You shouldn't be doing it. You should just, just tell him you can't do it because you're not a secretary, you're not a computer expert, you're not any of these things. And I became so discouraged because usually my daughter has really, really good advice for me. She usually tells me something really nice. I'm talking about Ramabhadra, not Shanti. And I prayed over a couple of days, and then I realized that for once in her life she was so far off. I said to myself, if Prabhupada told me that he wanted me to turn the sky from blue to orange, I have no qualification to do that. But I would give it my best shot. I would do everything I can. I'd give it my life and soul to try to do it if that's what he asked me to do. I cannot qualify myself. It's not my game. It's not my life. It's his. So, no matter how unqualified we may feel, if we take that lack of qualification humbly to the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, of Sri Krishna, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of our spiritual master, and we say, please forgive me. I have no qualification. You've asked me to do this or this, and I have no qualification. I have no ability. I have no education. I am simply a demon. Please forgive me for my unworthiness, of my lack of qualification. Forgive me for my attitude. Forgive me for even thinking that I could possibly be your devotee. And then the second part is that you forgive others. This is like the Lord's Prayer. It's so very beautiful. Please forgive me for my trespasses, as I forgive those who trespass against me. And Prabhupada says the same thing. As I forgive those who have committed an offense against me and who are imperfect in my eyes. How many times? It may be cultural, but for me, this usually happens in business. When I'm engaged in some kind of a business activity and somebody screws me over like 10 ways from Sunday. And I'm like, you son of a bitch, you bastard, you. And I want their karma to come back at them immediately, And it's like if I had some way. I remember I told this guy in Taiwan one time when they, I don't remember, it was the phone company. It's usually the phone company. They're the worst. But there was some kind of a company that that I said, well, you said this, and they said, yes, we said that, but that was yesterday. Today it's different. Today it's this. And I'm like, and so I have to give you 10,000 whatevers because it changed yesterday? Yes, that's I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. I'm very sorry, sir. You're sorry? You're sorry? And I just go, just boiling up in my head. And I want to hit the guy. He's on the phone, but I want to reach through the phone and hit the guy in the nose. Ah! And recently here, same thing. Globe gave me a Huawei 325 when I had ordered a Huawei 565 or something like that, much higher, more, stuff in it. And I called them up and I said, you gave me the wrong phone. And they said, we're very sorry, sir. Did you open the box? Well, of course I opened the box. Well, then it's too late. We can't take it back. And stuff like that happens and you're like, don't these people know how to do business? Don't these people have any ethics? Don't these people, and you think that you're so much better. At that moment, you're thinking, I would never do anything like this. I am so much better than this person. And this person should just rot in hell for the stuff that he's done to me, the customer, And you're wrong, Bakaong. I mean, you don't have to say, oh, I'm so very sorry. I offer my head at your feet. Dear phone company, whatever you want to do. You don't have to do that. After all, it's not, being humble doesn't mean being humble before a bunch of idiots. It means being humble before the Lord. And so at that moment, you have to take shelter. You have to take shelter in Krishna before you kill somebody. And you have to beg Krishna, please forgive me for thinking that I am all that. Please forgive me. Because that is when Krishna is testing you. That's when he wants to know, where is your heart? Where is your humility? Do you have any yet? And he puts you through the ringer, the Globe Telecom ringer, or whatever it might be. And you think this person is imperfect in your eyes. But in the eyes of Krishna, he's perfect, nevertheless. Maybe he hasn't turned to Krishna, but even as a flower is perfect in its blooming, he is perfect in his phoning. There isn't a person on this planet that isn't perfect. Now, we may see them as imperfect. We may see them as imperfect in that they are not consciously giving their lives to God. They are not consciously doing what they're doing for the service of God. And so we may see that imperfection. But actually in God's eyes, in Krishna's eyes, our only imperfection is that we don't want to be with Krishna. That's it. We don't want to be in Vrindavan. And because Krishna is magnanimous to a fault, if there were such a thing, he says, okay, don't be. Go play Globe Telecom or whatever it is you want to do. Again, it comes back again and again and again and again to one thing. Does anybody know what that one thing is? Any volunteers? Desire. Desire. If you desire with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength, with all your life to be with Krishna, you will be with Krishna. He will grant your desire. But if there is any other desire, if that desire is not 100%, if there is something contaminating that desire, then that's what you'll get. It's such a simple thing. If only we can desire to love God, desire with our life, with everything we are, with everything we have, that desire will be granted. But even as the Christians have their devil, Satan, so Krishna has Maya Devi. And she's always there saying, oh, come on. You don't really want that. You want this, don't you? You want this other thing. It's almost as good, and it'll give you pleasure right away. That's what you really want, don't you? And until you can be following the example, following the footsteps of Jesus and say, get thee hence. I do not want that. Oh, why not turn all the rocks into bread? You're the Son of God after all. What's the big deal? I won't tell anybody. So, if you look within your heart and you see that that desire is not all encompassing, then how can you change that? Come on, guys. How can you change that? How can you change that desire? Come on, somebody, talk to me. Tell me. How can you change it? I know some of you know. What? Yes. There are many ways, actually, by chanting, by praying, by all the 9 steps of devotional service, by serving the lotus feet, by all of these things are meant to do one thing: change your desire. That is what it's all about. When you can change your desire to not be attracted to anything in this world, but simply to want Krishna's lotus feet, to want to hold on to Krishna's lotus feet with all of your life and soul, to want to hold on to the feet of your Guru, knowing that seeing him is seeing the perfection of love of God. It's so hard to understand how it is that when one sees a spiritual master, he sees God. But we don't know, we don't understand that. We know he's not God, but yet when we see him, we see God. How is that? Because he is that person who desires only to serve God. And in seeing him in that service, we see God. And if you don't, then you got to chant some more. Spiritual master is Krishna's pure representative. Everything he does, everything he speaks, everything he does in pure devotion to Krishna. That is why they are one and yet different. We are one and yet different. So what's the difference? Spiritual master, the pure devotee of God, is consciously and constantly aware of his only desire. And we are by engaging in his service able to, by the grace of Krishna, one gets Guru. And by the grace of Guru, engaging in his service, following his instructions, we get Krishna. It's so sublime. It's so amazing. During the time of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami's celebrating his coming to the U.S., I could read that story again and again and again and again because so many completely disparate things had to come together in order for that miracle to happen. And if anybody can't see the hand of God in that, it's just, it blows my mind every time. So, with that in mind, I still have many more prayers to read, but we'll put it off until the next time. And I beg you to please serve the pure devotee of God. Chant his holy chant, Krishna's holy name. Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,